7 here, Big 550 KTRS. From time to time, over the next in the past couple of months, and the next couple of months, we are finding different voices that aren't necessarily heard, that are out there, that have something to say, and this certainly hits all of the criteria. Solomon Alexander, welcome to Big 550 KTRS.
McGraw, thank you so much for having me this morning.
I'm going to get you as close as possible. I can only do so much here.
There you go.
All right.
Solomon.
Are we right here?
Okay.
St. Louisan, born and raised?
Yes, I was born and raised here, went to high school at Ladue, so we make sure we can get that out of the way.
Okay.
I'm a North County resident right now, and I'm just loving life in St. Louis.
Okay, you married?
I am. My lovely wife and I have been married going on 14 years. We will celebrate our 14th anniversary Super Bowl weekend.
Fantastic. How many kids?
We have one.
One kid. Okay.
Yes.
And you're, would you call yourself a blogger?
Oh yes. Oh, definitely. Avid.
You're an avid blogger.
Yes.
These are your opinions, your thoughts. It's therealbigsol.com.
That's right. And just a little backstory on that. My dad was called Big Sol, and he was the original, so I guess I'm the real one. And so,
okay, therealbigsol.com.
Yes.
Okay, and for those who are listening on the radio, you are African American.
I am.
You would call yourself African American.
I definitely would.
Okay, your open letter to Ferguson protesters got our attention over the weekend. I don't want to read it, but the gist of this letter to the protesters is what?
Is that there's a time and place for everything. There's a way to do things decently and in order. What happened on Monday was several of the Ferguson protesters decided to interrupt a Martin Luther King celebration at Harris-Stowe State University, and they did so rather aggressively, taking over the stage, taking the microphone, starting chants, and really interrupting a tribute to a great American. And that wasn't okay. And that was the last straw of what I'd seen as several tactics that sort of muddle the message, because I certainly support what it is that they're trying to do, but the tactics sort of left me, and that one was the last straw.
Were you there?
I was not there. What happened is that I follow several of the protest leaders online, and when the vines and when the videos started to pop up, and I knew what was going on because I had attended the MLK celebration in years past, and I sort of knew like the gist of it,
right? But
just sort of getting in the middle of it and taking over the stage, like that was just totally out of order.
The reports are the protesters went on stage, started screaming, cursing at old and young alike, demanding answers, shutting it down, trying to get into a fight with other peaceful Martin Luther King observers. Police had to come in and sort of keep them from fighting. Is that all accurate?
As far as I know, I don't know if things reached the level of physicality, but I do know that there was a lot of profanity used. I do know that Harris-Stowe State University students were very upset. They're very angry with what was going on, because in this sort of narrative, it's sort of been like this young versus old deal, and that's not what's going on, because several of the Harris-Stowe students are actually younger than the protesters. And when we talk about young for just a minute, some of the quote-unquote young people, yeah, they're younger than Al Sharpton, yeah, but that's about it. I mean, some of them are mid to late 20s, 30s, 40s. Like, they're not college kids looking for a microphone like some people are looking for Twitter followers, basically.
That was a great line you had in your article, which was, you say, many of you are in your mid, late 20s, 30s, and 40s and are only interested in gaining a measure of celebrity and position. Some of you are hoping to get tased, gassed, or hit with a rubber bullet. Those things are worth at least 10,000 followers each. That is a pretty serious statement against the protesters.
It is, but it is, I mean, it's true. I've seen it in terms of there are people who I don't know what their background is. I don't know where they came from, but I know starting from August and on through November, when something happened, these people would pick up followers, they pick up retweets, they pick up favorites, like all the other like social media things, like they would pick these things up because they got hit with a rubber bullet or because they picked up a tear gas canister and threw it back. Those types of things, like they wanted to be where the action is, like some of them, and not all of them.
But you're almost saying like they were egging on the police to get beat up, to get tased, so that ultimately they would get more Twitter followers.
Not everyone, but certainly some people are. because there is something to having different networks here in town that will take a picture of your bruise from being hit with a rubber bullet or being hit with those, I don't know what you call those wooden, whatever cartridges that the officers were firing. But there are some people who look for confrontation with the police, and that really goes opposite to everything Martin Luther King was trying to do, because he didn't do things like have like marches at night or try to confront whoever like the protest target was, not try to confront them at night, not laying down in the middle of highways, you know, during the holiday season, and sort of, you know, this randomness that has been going on that sort of loses the message. And the message really is, you know, police brutality is a reality and it has to be stopped. And there are ways to stop it, and there are ways for people to hear you. And once you have their ear, then you have to have something concrete. You have to have policy. You have to have something that people can latch on to.
Let me ask you.
Yes.
Black male, living in St. Louis. You said you grew up in North City?
Yes.
Okay. What do you think is the answer for these protesters? Do you think that they're not going to stop?
No.
And I agree with you when you say, you know, I get your message, but I'm almost not getting their message anymore. I'm not getting their message anymore because their message is being blurred by their actions.
It is. The answer would be, when there is an officer involved shooting, to not have officers investigate themselves, to have the State Department of Public Safety investigate it, have a special prosecutor assigned immediately, because last time I checked, there isn't an officer or former officer in jail in the state of Missouri for shooting anybody, white, black, or otherwise. It's tough when the police investigate themselves. Chief Dotson was on this morning talking about the shooting just last night, where he says already that it's justified. The shooting is 8 hours old.
But that, I agree with you, but that's a reaction because people demanded information. And so now you're getting half the information. I agree with you. Police shouldn't investigate their own. And when Michael Brown was shot dead, the police surrounding couldn't touch the body. Then they get criticized for sitting out for 4 hours waiting for the people to come and investigate the police. So you can't have it every way. You can't complain having the body there and then say, well, the police can't protect or cannot investigate themselves. You know, let's have a serious conversation, but you know, there are logistics to this that are just really hard to sort of deal with.
There certainly are, and one of them has to do, and this is sort of bigger than this one issue, is that structurally the St. Louis region, and particularly St. Louis City and St. Louis County, are structured badly when it comes to policing. We have 90 some odd municipalities, 60 police departments, 80 municipal courts. But most of those 60 police departments can't do things like investigate murders on their own. They have to wait for a St. Louis City or a St. Louis County who has the resources. So when those types, so then why do they exist? And then so people don't know that, so they start to say, well, wait a minute, this body is in the street for 4.5 hours.
I see that's the point, Solomon Alexander. Yeah. I think many people agree on all of these things. I don't think there's a lot of disagreement. Also, people don't understand why Anthony Gray is the police chief of Pine Lawn, and yet the family attorney for Michael Brown claiming and criticizing police brutality. He's a police chief in North County.
And that speaks to the structural breakdown here, because there are people, I believe the municipal attorney in Breckenridge Hills is also a defense attorney in St. Charles and is also a judge somewhere else.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of that just mixture, and it's
a toxic soup.
Yes, it is an absolute mess.
Solomon Alexander, our guest, a couple more minutes with us. He's a community activist, blogger, therealbigsol.com, and it is a must to read his open letter to Ferguson protesters. We'll tweet it out here again at the end of the segment. What has been the reaction, Solomon Alexander? You're a black man. You are questioning and calling out some of these protesters. What has been the reaction from this letter you sent?
The reaction mostly has been positive. With some of the protest leaders, they've been I think listening, or at least from a dialogue standpoint, I haven't gotten any threats or profane language thrown my way. It's really how you come to people. Like, if you come at anyone just sort of wanting to put them down and criticize them all the time, then like they don't hear you. Mm-hmm. But if you come to them with love and really, saying, look, I get it, but tactically, these things, like, you might want to change these things because people who were listening to you are now starting to tune you out.
Right.
And what you don't want to be, and I have to credit my wife for this, what you don't want to be, for anybody who has ever been to Memphis, to the Civil Rights Museum, there is a woman who has been protesting for 40 some odd years. She's been protesting by herself. She sits outside the museum. They've built the museum around her. Mm-hmm. They've opened up new wings, all this stuff. She continues to protest, but she's now become an exhibit because no one knows what she's protesting. People have forgotten what she's protested about because her protest just became noise and life went on. And you don't want your protest to just become noise. You want to have a message. You want to have policy. You want to have real change.
And I think your point is that by shutting down and disrupting a Martin Luther King celebration is the wrong way to go about making positive change.
Exactly. You will turn off a ton of people of all races because, I mean, it's Martin Luther King, a tribute to Martin Luther King. You really can't go wrong with that. There's no reason to shut that down or protest that.
Right, right. Solomon Alexander, you are always welcome here, my friend.
Thank you.
Protester, the blog is thereallybigsol.com.
The Real Big.
Therealbigsol.com.
Yes.
But he's really big, too. But
Thank you.
Therealbigsol.com blogger, and his open letter to Ferguson protesters is a must-read. Probably one of the best things written in this entire ordeal. So, Solomon,
I agree.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for a couple minutes, and have a good day.
Thank you guys for having me.
You got it. 8:50, traffic weather next on KTR.